Hey guys, what's up? It's Wes. Got my trusty coffee here, trying to wake up a little bit. So, the YouTube stuff, this stuff's amazing, man. This community is growing faster than I can even keep up with, and I'm very, very happy and excited about that. It's always a pleasure to be able to talk with fellow artists and people, either whether they're professionals or just getting into it, or hobbyists, or somebody that maybe painted 20 years ago and now is getting back into it in a digital sense. Like it's a blast to be able to speak with you all on that. So I appreciate all that support, and it's just a ton of fun. But before the art channel gets years down the line, I felt like it was important to do this video specifically because whenever I work with students, whether it's through Skillshare, private mentorship, or I taught some like professional development stuff for colleges and things like that. In regards to art, there's one rule that I always go back to, and I specifically mention this in every single one of my tutorials. So if you bought a tutorial of mine, one, I appreciate the support, thank you so much, but also you're going to know what this rule is already, because I try to hammer it home, because I think it is the most important rule to remember while you're creating art. And this doesn't even necessarily just have to do with visual art. You can change this to fit whatever creative endeavor you're doing, but it's the one thing. It is a true clarity idea that you should take forward with you regardless. And I think it's an important, in my opinion, it's very important because there, as we all know, on YouTube, there's a whole lot of different voices, there's a whole lot of different channels and techniques and stuff like that. But there's one rule. If you take nothing else from my channel, for the rest of time, I want you to watch and listen to this next narrated part. I go off on a little bit of a tangent, but I want to drive the point home. It's the number one rule that I always come back to. And the more I embrace this rule, the better my art is getting. So I hope that's going to be the same way for you. Just always remember, it had that little voice in your head just kind of scratching at you. But enjoy this time lapse. So this is an interesting time lapse because it started off as one thing, then probably midway through I completely scrap it except for one item that I actually liked the look and the feel of, and I changed basically what the entire intent of the piece was. So this just goes to show, one, hopefully it's kind of fun to tie with the lesson that we're going to talk about because they're kind of connected. But it just goes to show that even if you're in the middle of a creation process, if something's not working, scrap it. And I wanted to show that because it's very easy to see all the beautiful, glamorous stuff on YouTube. And I do it too. Like I might paint a thing multiple times, record it each time, and then take the best one and use it. But this one's raw. This one, I just wanted to get this idea out there. No idea how I was going to render any of it, anything like that. And you're going to see that lack of decision making in the piece. But I'm hoping that combined with that, kind of seeing that development process, plus what the lesson is, what that piece of advice is, hopefully it's going to come together into something. And I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. Is there a golden rule that you always go back to? Whether you're a visual artist, a painter, illustrator, graphic designer, even a musician, writer, storyteller, whatever. Is there a golden rule that gets you by, that you always take a step back and you remember and you go forward with? But I'd love to know. But without further ado, let's start that time lapse. And I hope you get something out of this one. But remember, it's the most important rule. If you take anything away from this entire channel, that you all have graciously supported, take this one for sure. But yeah, let's get to it. All right, so welcome to this. Welcome to this one. So I know the heading and all that stuff could be a little clickbaity, but honestly, this is the most important advice I always give my art students or people on my Discord or patrons or whatever, whenever they run into a rut and they don't know how to kind of push through to the other side, or if they're working on a specific piece, or just in general what I always tell them, and this is my number one, it will always be my most important piece of advice. If it looks good, it is good. And that's it. If it looks good, it is good. We are in a visual communication medium. The number one goal of what we do should be to make something that is visually interesting and make something that either speaks to ourselves or speaks to other people. There's a lot of kind of heady things whenever you talk about visuals and getting emotion out of people and getting emotion out of yourself and using it as some sort of soul cleansing endeavor. It's good for your spirit to create, and but at the end of the day, there's so many rules, there are so many teachers, there are so many methods that if you try to remember 500 steps from 500 different artists, you will never make anything. Ever. It is paralysis by analysis. You're going to be so caught up in making the quote-unquote right decision that you won't make any decision. What I always try to talk about is it is physically impossible to get in shape by reading a fitness magazine. You can't do it. You can't do it. It is impossible. By reading the magazine, you might be getting information, but you cannot get in shape because you're not acting on it. You're not putting it to practice. You're not putting it to use. So it is literally physically impossible to get in good shape by reading a fitness magazine. Can't do it. So why do they sell so well? It's the guidance. It's a starting point. It's a direction. It's something that you may have some thoughts in your head about it, and then you read somebody's opinion and you can either agree or disagree. And what that should do is motivate you to try something. And that's what all of this is. I don't care who you follow on ArtStation or Gumroad or, my channel or other YouTubers or whatever. Take what we say as guidance, not as like the law. My goal for you as a creator is to listen to what I say and disagree and prove me wrong. That's really the goal. As an art instructor, whenever I mentor students or something like that, what I tell them is I'm not going to teach you to paint like me. Trust me, I don't want anyone to paint like me because, I'm the world's most okayest artist, right? There's so many people that are better, but my job is not to make you paint like me or problem solve like me. That's not what this is. My job is to give advice and guidance that you either agree or disagree with. If you want a tangible example of some advice, I really do kind of subscribe to the highlights and shadows with the temperatures. So if your highlights are warm, your shadows will probably be cool. Now that's not a law. That's not correct. It's actually not correct. It's not correct all the time. It's not correct half the time. It's way more nuanced than that. But I like to think of, warm highlights, cool shadows, or cool highlights, warm shadows as a starting point. Because what does that tell me? If I get it in there and I put that in my piece that I'm working on, and then I step back from it, either I sleep on it or I come back to it after, I eat something, I take about an hour break, I come back, and then I look at it. And then I ask myself seriously just one question: does this look good? If the answer is yes, I keep it. If the answer is no, I change it. If it looks good, it is good. Now, this brings about a whole thing about taste, and, a lot of people might be, where they get nervous is, what if my taste is not good? What if I think something looks good, I put it out there thinking, I love the way this looks, and everyone laughs at me. They think my taste is terrible or something. And maybe, but you find something. There's a reason why you like it. So, like right now, I'm going through a whole thing of like, whoa, what would this artist do in this situation? What would Greg Rutkowski do for his, whether it's, what brushes did he use, or what's the temperature, or like what's the shape language, or the composition, or blah, blah, blah. Like even that, just focusing on one other artist that's not yourself, you can ask 8 million questions and never get anything done. So what I have started to do lately, and I actually enjoy watching and buying other people's tutorials more than ever now. Beforehand, I would buy them out of necessity. I would be like, how do they do this? I don't know how they do this. Like, what is the method? What brush do they use? And that was cool because it got me off the starting line. It got me it built up my confidence in, oh, I see them do it. They use this brush, so it's possible. Then, now I'm at this other level of whenever I watch it, I don't worry about the decision they made. I try to reverse engineer it and ask, why did they make that decision? Why did they put the shadow right there? Oh, is it because the light source is over here? Okay, well that makes sense. And then that's the lesson I can take from it. Do you know what I mean? Like, instead of, wow, look at this beautiful painting, how do they paint like that? That's kind of the surface level. But now I go, and my hope is that I will watch something by, Anthony Jones or Marco Bucci or something, and be like, you know what? I don't know if I like that. I'll try it. I'll look at it. Maybe I need to shake things up, or maybe I need to kind of, do something a little different, because if you keep doing the same thing you've always done, you're going to get what you always got. There's that old saying, right? So seeing a different method and trying different methods is great, because it's going to put this splash of originality in your process. It's going to shake you out of your comfort zone. And I know we've talked about comfort zone a lot, but sometimes that's needed. You're not necessarily burning your bridges, you're blowing up the bridge while you're still standing on it. And I think that's good. That's an anarchist way of looking at it, but I think that's good. You need to do something completely out of your realm in order to put better in perspective the stuff that you're pretty good at, or the stuff that you really love to do. So do graphic design, do vector illustration, do something that's so beyond. Like right now I'm trying pixel art, and oh my god, it's funny how the lessons of things like edge control and perspective and depth of field and all that stuff changes when you're working with 1x1 pixels. So what do I mean by edge control? Whenever every edge has to be razor sharp. So what do we look at now? Oh, it's contrast. Is it value contrast, color contrast? Like, what are we doing? So you really have to beeline in, and hopefully those lessons will be able to work with my painting, and I'll be able to take those lessons and reapply them. But at the end of the day, if it looks good, it is good. There's no right answer, and that's what makes art so difficult. That's why we butt our heads against the wall, we smash on our keyboards. Like, we'll go through great days where we feel like $1 million, stuff is going exactly how we want it. But if you're like me, more often than not, you're gonna fight through some of your pieces. You're gonna be like, this is not where I want it to be. Yeah, it's fine, but it's not good enough. But something to remember, if it looks good, it is good. And sometimes that's not for us as the artist to decide. Our part of this transaction of visual communication is create things. It's up to the audience to like it or not. That it's kind of a freeing mentality. My only expectation of you as the artist is to make the thing. It's up to the audience, it's up to each individual viewer to find value or no value in it. And that's not really up to you. They could be having a bad day, you put up the stuff and it doesn't get a lot of traction on social, and you're like, I don't know, why is this one not doing well? I'm pretty proud of this one. Like, why is this not? Who knows? Maybe Labor Day weekend, no one's looking at their phone. Or, you know what I mean? Like, there could be so much stuff out of your control. But your job is to push yourself to new limits. But always remember that if it looks good, it is good. It's a freeing thing. It's a thing that, at the end of the day, no matter what, shake out all the bull crap that you learn from Gumroad, all the crap that you learn maybe from my channel, brush packs, and like get all of that out of your head. Just like re-scramble your brain a little. Step back from your piece and ask yourself, does this look good? If it doesn't, what do you think would make it look better? Not what would make it more, what would make it look more like a traditional painting, or what would make it look like the edges are more painterly, or what would make it look like the values are higher contrast. Don't even get that far. Don't ask yourself technique stuff. Just ask yourself, does this look good? And be honest. And by being honest, it's not always saying, well, always say no. No, this doesn't look good. I need to fix it. Be honest with it. Does it look good? Yeah. Great. Keep going. Like, just do the thing. Just keep doing the thing that you're doing. You're going to get there. Through trial and tribulation and practice and all this stuff, you're going to be able to push through the ugly phases of a painting. And like I say on every single one of my tutorials and on here, you're going to run into an ugly phase. In fact, you're going to run into probably 3 ugly phases of your painting. Just go through it. Just muscle through it. Know that it's going to look better at the end. Houses don't look finished once they're put up. You got to put down the foundation and then run the plumbing, and then, you know, you put up the foundation stuff and then drywall and then braces, and you know, it's ugly. You can't live in it right away. So you got to build it. You got to build this thing. And just every step of the way, just remember, oh, does this look good? Will it look good? And then work off faith. A lot of this is faith-based. A lot of this is just trusting in yourself enough, which that's difficult. I can tell you from experience, that's very trusting your own instinct. And that's why we go back to taste and, oh, what if I'm making a thing and I think it looks good and everyone else laughs at it? That's a thing that you're always going to have. I think once you start getting to the point where you're like, oh, I know this one looks good, you start smelling your own farts, and nothing good comes from that. I always have to say, you know, my wife published a few books, and she's working on short story stuff, and me and her talk about this all the time. If somebody ever approaches us and say, hey, you need to read my book, I'm such a great writer, I guarantee you you're a terrible writer. I guarantee it. There's no, I don't want to read anything you ever write because you're a really bad writer. Like, it's like saying you're the most humble person. Oh, I'm so humble. Really? Like, you don't know what the definition of this is. If you're an artist and you're not kind of mad at yourself all the time, I don't think you're any good. Like, I don't, that might give me some hate or whatever, but like, you gotta have that sort of like, I know I can do better thing. And that's what makes the artist, and that's what makes it. And that can be your gasoline. That can be your drive and your momentum booster and all that. It's like that slight, I could have done this better. Let me do another one. I could have done this better. Akira Kurosawa talked about that. He has a famous quote, and I'm going to paraphrase this. I think I've mentioned it before on the channel, but he talks about like the reason why he made so many movies. And if you don't know who Kurosawa is, please like go watch Throne of Blood and Ran and Sanjuro, Yojimbo, Seven Samurai, Hidden Fortress. Like, I'm a huge fan of his. He's a genius. Made some of the greatest motion pictures of all time, and a majority of them are in black and white, and they're still the most beautiful movies you're ever going to see. But he said the only reason why he continues to make movies is because he thinks next time he's going to make a good one. And I get it. I totally get it. Because it's like, oh yeah, this painting, yeah, that's old news. Even 5 minutes after I publish something, I'm like, yeah, that's old. What am I doing next time? You have to have that itch, that crazy deal. But I think there's so much of this otherworldly stuff happening around us in regards to social media presence, and hey, is this going to be good enough to get me a job, and oh, what kind of technique am I using, and what are people a fan of, and do they expect a certain thing from me? And there's so many things going on in your head that are crazy, and people need to remember that art and creating and painting and illustrating and whatever you're doing, that's the hard part. All the other stuff is hard as well, but like the actual hard part is making the thing. So when you're making the thing, just reiterate, if it looks good, it is good. If it looks good, it is good. Over and over and over. It seems redundant, it seems basic, but sometimes that's what you need. You need a clarity. You need that moment of, why am I doing this in the first place? And why do you read an art magazine? Why do you get the art of video game books or whatever, you know, the art of Horizon Zero Dawn or the art of Diablo or the art of whatever? And like, I have Destiny books and all this other stuff. I get it because it looks good. Sure, you can study technique. Sure, you can study, well, look at their shape language, look at the perspective. Oh, I see what they're doing here. It's a 3-point perspective with a... Sure, you can break it down to the finite details, but at the end of the day, why do you want to study it? Because it looks good. If it looks good, it is good. I say that at the start of every one of my premium tutorials, which if you've bought some, thank you so much for your support. There's some new ones coming out, so be on the lookout for that. But if I give advice and you try it and you think it sucks, that's fine. Like, be nice about telling me, hey man, I tried this and it didn't really work. And then we can discuss it, because that's fun, because now I have to put up my end of the bargain and be like, why do I believe in this method? And then you can rebuttal and be like, well, that doesn't work for me because of blank. And what's cool is that's how we both grow. You know what I mean? Like, it's fine to disagree. It is fine to use different methods. It is fine to use your own method. If you find a thing that works for you and you love the results every single time, for God's sake, do it. You know what that's called? That's called style. So I think at the end of this, what you get is style, just by the nature of the decisions you do or do not make. That will define your style. You won't even have to try. It's just going to come out. And then people are going to see it, and people will be drawn to it. It may not be the industry you want. It may not be the exact client that you want. I know we talked about making a portfolio for a specific job or client, and I have mixed feelings on that. Feel free to go back and check that out. But at the end of the day, if it looks good, it is good. It just always comes back to it. There's nothing else really to say on it. Learn techniques, learn methods, study, really be a student of the game of creation, student of the game of visual art, visual communication. Look at graphic designers, look at architects, look at, hell, look at other things like music composition and like, what do you mean the circle of fifths? What is that? What is that? And like, why is that important? Oh, I see. Oh, rhythm and oh, melody and oh, yeah. You start learning these things. Like, I'm a big fan of Yngwie Malmsteen. I've played guitar for 20 years, and he's not my favorite guitar player, but I respect the hell out of him because he does his own thing super well. He's neoclassical, crazy shred metal. He's like Paganini. He's a madman. Even he will say, if it sounds good, it is good. Doesn't matter what technique you're using. If it sounds good, it is good. And I think that same exact rule applies here. If it looks good, it is good. I don't care if you broke every composition rule. I don't care if you didn't use the color wheel. I don't care if you didn't do the cool highlights and warm shadows. I don't care. If it looks good, it is good. Mark Carter, he's a traditional artist here. He does the Draw Mix Paint channel on YouTube, which I highly recommend. He's a traditional artist. He's done like presidential portraits and oils and stuff. Like, the dude's legit. He's one of the best in the world. And that's what he talks about. He talks about he doesn't believe in rules. He believes in guidance. Like, if you have some struggles here or there, maybe try rule of thirds. That could help. Or the Fibonacci sequence or whatever. Maybe. That can maybe help you solve a problem. But it's not a hard and fast rule. He was like, no matter what rule of composition or color or painting or technique or whatever you give him, he will find 13 to 50 paintings that break every rule you say and are still masterpieces. So it makes it difficult. There's no set answers. That's why this is so hard. That's why we continue to fight and claw and go for it. And we're going to find it one day. We're going to find it one day. That's the fuel. That's the motivation. And who knows? You might find it. And then tell me what it is, because I'm still looking. I'm still, for whatever it is, I'm looking for it. So if you find it, let me know. Send me a DM or like put a thing out in the paper. Like do something, because I need to know. Anyway, that's my time for this time. But remember, guys, if it looks good, it is good. Go paint. Go make cool stuff. Stuff that excites you. Just go make it, man. Like, make cool stuff. The world is a better place because you're in it. The world wants to see what you have to say. Make cool stuff. That's my time. I will catch you guys next time. Let me know what you think about this topic in the comments. I know it's kind of a, once again, I always talk about artsy fartsy things, but this is one of those. It's going back to the very bare bones basics of visual aid, visual communication. If it looks good, it is good. But let me know what you think. Is this something that you need to kind of like wash your face and shake it out and, you know, get back to the fundamentals? Or is it one of those that you're so caught up in theory that you're in that hole and you don't know how to dig out? Because we can talk about it in the comments. But let me know. Can't wait to catch what you guys are making, and be sure to let me know kind of what you're up to. So without further ado, that's my time. I will see you guys next time. Guys, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.